books are so well known. I read them when I was a kid, so there was a lot of pressure, and I felt that pressure. But luckily, I had the most amazing team and cast around me to support me through that. And it ended up just being fun.
What do you want? You, as an agent.
The world we inhabit is murky.
It was a head-on collision. Don't understand. Your uncle was over the speed limit.
Things are never as clear as we would wish.
No hospital in London has any record of him being brought in.
Maybe they spelled his name wrong. They're always doing that.
Or maybe it didn't happen. I want to find out who killed my uncle.
There's something we'd like you to do for us. No one outside this department needs to know about this operation.
Hello, Alex. Your uncle worked for the British government. He was a spy. And I think you are too.
You take a look around, you don't take any risks, and you report back.
Everyone, this is Alex.
Alex is bright and determined, and he questions everything, but he can be impulsive and irresponsible.
I know Krav Maga. I know shooting people in the head.
The little fish survives by being smarter and faster and more daring.
Like he's been training for this his whole life.
Actions have consequences, Alex.
You think I can't see right through you? You think I can't tell when someone is pretending to be something they're obviously not?
What if you never find out what really happened?
I do this one thing and it's over. They leave us alone.
These people aren't your friends, okay? Me and Jack, we're your friends.
I did warn you.
Shoot me.
Change is never easy. Change hurts, but it can be for the better.
At the end of this, he will be transformed.
Welcome to the Paleyfest Fall TV Previews. Hi, I'm Damian Holbrook of TV Guide Magazine, and I'm delighted to be your host for this special conversation celebrating the new original series Alex Rider from Amazon's free streaming service imbd TV. And thanks to the festival's official card City and festival sponsor Verizon for helping make this event possible. This program is presented by the Paley Center for Media, a nonprofit organization dedicated to honoring excellence in television through education programs, great conversations with the stars and storytellers of critically acclaimed series like the one we celebrate today, and the preservation of television's creative legacy through the Paley Archive. To learn more and to become a member, please visit paleycenter.org. Thank you. And today, I'm thrilled to welcome the gifted cast and creative team of Alex Rider. Joining us are executive producer and author of the Alex Rider book franchise, Anthony Horowitz, executive producer Jill Green, executive producer Eve Gutierrez, executive producer and the writer who adapted the TV series Guy Burt, and cast members Otto Farrant, Brenock O'Conner, Marli Siu, and Ronkę Adékoluejo. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. I have watched the first 5 episodes, all in almost one sitting. And what a ride. This is so much fun. Now, Anthony, you worked on the screenplay for the feature film version. What was it like for you to take this character and this world and actually get to serialize it?
Well, I wasn't able to write the series myself because I was, of course, writing an Alex Rider book at the same time. So what was it like to pass my baby across? It was fine. I mean, as soon as Guy started working on the scripts, and I already, of course, worked a great deal with 11th Hour Films, and as soon as Otto and everybody else were cast, I sort of had just a good feeling about it. And I was able to sit back with complete confidence and start watching the dailies as they came in and knew that we'd got it absolutely right. And now Alex Rider has been with us for 20 years. 13 novels, like 6 graphic novels, various versions. How cool is it that this character has such a life? Well, I mean, you could add to that something like 20 million books sold around the world in 30 different countries. I mean, it's been a real roller coaster of a journey for me. And it makes me feel quite old to think that it was 20 years ago that I wrote Stormbreaker, the first book in a series. But to answer your question, how has it been coming to this TV show? This show, I can tell you, is the Alex Rider show that I dreamed about. In everything from the direction, the production value, the cast I've already mentioned, the scripts. It really was one of those few occasions in my writing career when everything went right.
Nice. That's very rare. So, Guy, what was it about Alex Rider that made you, because when you take on something like this, I mean, it is a huge commitment. What was it about Alex Rider that you thought, all right, I'm willing to dedicate the next possible 5 to 10 years of my life to?
Very good question. I mean, I love the books, and my kids have read them as well and loved them. So I came to it with a great deal of warmth and enthusiasm. And of course, one of the joys of adaptation is that the heavy lifting's been done for you. Anthony's done all the hard work. You've got a story, you've got characters. So for me, the pleasure of it was just taking that and deepening it, broadening the world, having fun with it, and taking it in slightly different directions that you can do on television. And that's just great fun.
Yeah. And now, Eva Jill, when did you come into the project?
Oh gosh, I mean, we've been in it for a long, long time, of course. Probably 3 or 4 years ahead of everybody around on this screen, apart from Anthony, I would say. It's been a long journey for us, and a really challenging one, but a very creative one, because we saw the opportunity finally to do something big and cinematic for a TV screen rather than a movie version. And that was really when shows like Game of Thrones became very successful. Yeah. There was the moment for us to finally realise Alex Rider and tonally realise it in a different way to the movies as well. I mean, that was very crucial for us, and maybe something that Eve wants to talk about as well, in the sense of trying to make it grown up, bringing it out to a much wider audience than even the books, and certainly a different audience to the movie. Eve, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, there were two things for me. The kind of responsibility kind of weighed heavy in terms of taking something that was so loved by its fans, and could we get it right for the screen? And what audience were we looking to make that for? Because, as Anthony said, he started writing those books 20 years ago. And so we had both the kind of audience that come to the books now, who are, anything from age 10 upwards. And we have to please the people that started reading the books 20 years ago, but want to kind of immerse themselves back in now. And then and as Jill says, trying to then reach beyond the fans of the books, so that actually it could just be a show that was loved and enjoyed by everybody. And actually, I think something about the journey, it was now felt like the right moment for it. And it wasn't just to do with the appetite changing and the way we view shows changing, but it was also to do with this moment in time where I feel like, the world is a hard place at the moment. And for me, the idea of doing a show about young people who are, fighting against the grown-up world and trying to make the world a better place just speaks to me in this moment in time. So, it felt a bit like a perfect storm as well.
And you all mentioned there's a responsibility. These books have a built-in fandom, and then you also have the new viewers that you want to catch. And the key, a key portion of adapting anything like this is casting. Like, people have read these characters, they expect what they think. How daunting was casting this show?
Wow, it was a long process. I think we went national, we went everywhere. We went from people who didn't have access to local schools, drama schools, people just coming along to gymnasiums to just audition on the day, a bit like an X Factor setup. I mean, we went as wide as we could. People could self-tape, and I think we had about 600 people in to play Alex, where we began, obviously. And then we whittled that down and down and down. I think we're about 8 times we whittled that down. And then there was just like a final 10, I think. And then we did a combination of Alex's, Tom's and Jack's.
And so Brenock, Ronkę and Otto all got cast at the same moment in time because, you know, that triangle is so important to the show and, you know, for you to emotionally engage with. And, you know, there was just this incredible moment one afternoon where the three of them came together for the first time. None of them knew each other before. And we also got to see this moment of magic in front of us.
Yeah, there was about 15 of us in the room at that point as well. And we all agreed. I mean, how fantastic is that we actually all agreed on all three of them at the same moment in time.
And they're all so likable. So I want to ask Otto, because this is a tough character to pull off, because a strong-willed teenager, they can be a rough sell, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, they're just rah, rah, rah. But you've made him very strong, but also very sympathetic. How was it? Like, what was it that you found in the character that you're like, this is who he is?
Well, I spoke a lot with Andreas Prochaska, the director of the first 4 episodes. And from the beginning, he was just like, try and bring as much of yourself to the role as you can. And I have a very sensitive side, and I also have quite a strong-willed side. So I tried to just throw as much of that into it as I could, really. But like you said, I mean, these books are so well known. I read them when I was a kid, so there was a lot of pressure, and I felt that pressure. But luckily, I had the most amazing team and cast around me to support me through that. You talk about that moment where Brenock and Ronkę and I were in the audition room, and it was nice because it was the rest of the day was so stressful, where it was like X Factor. They kick 5 people away, and then they'd kick another 2, and then there was 3 of us, and then there was 2 of us, and to have Brenock and Ronkę there was just like, whenever we were in that room, it was like, oh, okay, I can relax. This is nice.
So many people, British actors, most like they talk about growing up wanting to be James Bond. Was Alex Rider that for your generation?
Yeah, I suppose it was. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's a strange thing because I never thought I would ever get to play a spy. And I think if you look at the roles that I've played before, I've always played quite sensitive teenagers. But never had that strong-willed side to show. So it was quite nice to be able to learn about myself and bring some new things to the screen that I hadn't done before. So yeah, it was great.
Now, Brenock, Tom is not in the books, correct?
No, he is. He comes in book 5, I believe. Okay,
all right, because I know he's not in the first 2, at least. So first of all, thank God, because usually like when a character is like created from whole cloth in a new adaptation, they're like, well, we can kill them because they're not stuck in the books. So good for you. But this character, he's introduced as kind of like, he's kind of goofy, but he's also kind of the heart of the situation. Like he's the one who shows up and says like, you're not being a good friend. What's going on?
Yeah, I think Tom is such a joy to play because he is completely oblivious for the first few. Like he has no idea what's going on, so it's pure honesty. There's no pretense with him. Everyone else in the show is hiding something or trying to convince someone of something, and Tom's just left floating in everyone else's mess. And it's a gorgeous thing to play because you just sort of have to bounce off people, and when you're bouncing off people like this, it makes it very easy.
And what does he, because I love there's kind of just a little touch of him doing some kind of like online adventures of Alex Rider, the teen spy. What kind of assistance is he going to provide Alex going forward?
Very, very poor assistance. He's got no idea what he's doing, as I've mentioned. But he'll try. He'll be there. He will fully be there, but God knows what he's doing.
Emotional support.
Emotional support, right? He's got to have somebody in his corner. And Ronkę, I love Jack so much. I love this character. I love that she's American. I love that. I kind of was like, oh, it would be so cool if we found out later on she's actually his handler. So why is she so devoted to Alex?
I guess when you leave your whole family behind, you have to find a new family when you come across the pond, and she finds that with Alex and his uncle. So when that stuff happens, she doesn't want to leave him because, you know, it's like, that's her people, that's her family. She loves him. He's her best friend.
Mm. And it's kind of like she's no BS. She's no BS with him. She won't put up with like these spies coming into her house and giving But I can imagine that is going to place her and also Tom in crosshairs. I mean, you guys are in a dangerous position now.
Yeah, definitely. Very dangerous position. I mean, we're dealing with people who kill people. So all of a sudden life goes from what you think is normal to completely out of this world. It's like trying to deal with something you don't understand how to. So she just tries to go with the flow, I guess, but has to get involved at certain points.
And what I love, Anthony and Guy, what you've done is these two characters, when they learn what Alex is involved with and what his uncle was involved with, they don't go through that process of like having to be convinced of it. Like they're like, oh yeah, he was a spy. They're like immediately on board.
That is very, very different from the books. In the books, Jack is the only person who knows. And I did love the way the guy expanded the idea so that, yeah, Jack finds out and Tom finds out. And you know what Jewel was saying earlier, I was in the room when that moment happened and the three of them came together. And the emotional support that those two actors give and the two characters give to Alex cannot be underestimated. They are normality. They are his emotional heart, his refuge. And it's wonderful to see the three of them on the screen.
And then, because he's separated from them once he gets to Point Blank, which is a very disturbing situation. And that was like at the end of episode 4, like that's when I was starting to really get concerned for Alex. Because I was like, well, what if they get into his head? Like, we don't know how much training he's actually had. So I was very concerned. But then we meet Kyra, who... she's got a lot going on, obviously. But Marli, what can you tell us about this woman and what she's going to provide for Alex? Because I feel like the two of them working together within this organization are going to be very strong.
Yeah, so I guess Kyra's a creation from Guy's mind. And I think she was, correct me if I'm wrong, Guy, created to be someone who sort of both helps and challenges Alex in his move to wrestling. That's right. And so she's also incredibly computer savvy. She's really smart. She's not very sociable. Doesn't have great social skills. But I think her and Alex, when they meet and start sussing each other out, they realize they both have a skill set that can really help each other survive really.
Well, it's so interesting because the way it plays out with Alex, like first he has the girl at school who he doesn't know how to talk to. And he does he's like completely in no game. And then at a different kind of school, he's actually able to like trying to break through to you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think they get made to, because I don't think he would like speak to her unless he absolutely had to. Like he's got like a mission. Otherwise, like he's awful with women. Like I don't think he would have a clue until he's forced to, like for his survival and to find out about his uncle, he's made to speak to a girl and work together with her. But yeah, no, he does well because Kyra's not an easy person to talk to, I don't think.
So without spoiling anything, did you get to work with Brenock or Ronkę?
Not yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. And now, Jill, you had mentioned the cinematic approach to television these days. And this show is shot beautifully. Like the production design is on point. So let's talk about that. What was the idea that you had for this? Because the scope is magnificent.
I think we wanted to have that scale on it. And we knew that we were never going to be able to we didn't have a budget for a James Bond movie. And actually, we never wanted to be there anyway. We always said to ourselves, we're more like Jason Bourne. We're character driven in that sense. And guess what? We can do these great things in a more lateral and interesting way. And, you know, we did spend a lot of money on things like, you know, the ironing board going down the mountain, which we knew was one of the most favourite scenes from all of the Alex Rider books, not just, you know, if you ask the fans, that's the one that they quote. And we knew that we had to get the money on the screen for that one. And we did spend a lot of money on that and obviously wrapped Otto in bubble wrapping when we shot that as well, because it was one of the things we filmed. And of course, he wanted to do everything in that scene, and we wouldn't let him do everything, although he did do quite a lot of clever things in it. But then everything else, I think what's so clever about what we achieved in the end was we did get that scale, and we are a global show, and we're going to carry on at that level as well. Yeah, we just have to think outside the box sometimes in the way that we create these scenes. But I'm so pleased that and the audience are responding to it as well in the same way, that it has that big cinematic look to it.
The sweeping shots of like the French Alps going in on the school, I'm like, this is gorgeous. So you also mentioned Otto wanting to do stunts. Otto, did you get to do any cool stunts?
Yeah, I got to do loads. I got to climb the building of the school with a big wedgie because they put a crane up and put a bungee. What were they called? Like a wire. They put a harness. But it wasn't a harness. I had like a school uniform on, and they it hurts. It hurt. So I did that, and then I had to do the fight scenes, which were great, although Brenock will tell you otherwise because I think he got hit in the face.
Yeah, I did.
Twice. Sorry, Brian.
Twice!
It was a real beautiful moment. Otto managed to elbow me in the nose and punch the stunt double in the nose in the same swing. It was really quite impressive.
Yeah, but to be fair, karma hit me straight away because as we were running away out the shot, so in the first episode, I just tanked it onto the floor, and Brenock had to help me up. So I'm sorry, Brent. It's fine.
We have a question from our sponsor, Citi. So the festival sponsor, Citi, they want to know, what are you guys most excited for viewers to see in season 1?
God, I mean, everything, the whole show, you're in a different world. Every episode is you're in a different world. So be ready to, adapt and jump into all those different exciting places. I mean, it looks amazing. All the action's incredible. The cast are great. Yeah, what more could you want?
Anyone else? Anything that you're excited for people to see?
Falling down the mountain moment.
Yeah, I'd have to say that. When I knew that 11th hour doing this, I said the one sequence you've got to do and you've got to get right is the escape from Point Blank. And you haven't seen it yet because it's an episode, it's a later episode when you're in. But the sequence that they shot is as good as anything I've ever seen on television. It was exactly what I imagined when I wrote the book. So that's a bit that I'm waiting for.
Nice.
I think there's a lot of fun to be had in the Point Blank school as well, because I mean, we talked about, even films like The Shining, and there's lots of great tense corridor moments where you're not quite sure what's going to happen. It's very, very gripping. So there's some fabulous stuff on some of the later episodes as well.
For a school that charges that much, you'd think that they would have some more lights in the hallways.
They have a lot of cameras everywhere.
And now, Guy, so Anthony mentioned that he was working on a new book. You're working on the show. Have you talked to him about possibly having him write an episode?
I think he's helping plenty, actually. He rolls his sleeves up and helps me out all the time. He's there all the way through the process, and we're Zoom chatting each week, working on the scripts together. It's not at all that he's handed it all off to me and walked away. It's really collaborative and it's lovely.
I sort of second that. It's a fantastic collaboration, though. What's great is a guy can do his own thing. He can create his own characters, like, for example, Kara in Tyler's invention, and to a large extent, Tom, and go his own way and open up the world. And yet we still talk, and I can help a little bit where necessary, and we just have a very, very good relationship. It's just, I'm not a very collaborative writer, but this has been a blast.
In that idea of, Guy creating some new stuff, what do you think is going to be the most surprising new content for fans of the books when they come to the show?
Well, I guess the answer to that is Brenock, broadly speaking. I mean, the character of Tom, who only does appear very in a small way in book sort of 4, I think he turns up, or, just as a side character in book 5 for the first time, he's a main character. But in this book, and this series, Point Blank, he is such a major character. And yet, when you see the two boys together on the screen, you just go with it. It's so enjoyable to share their company. So I think that for the fans of the books, that'll be the big surprise. And there are many others, but that's one that I choose right now.
because you talked about there's adventure, there's action, there might be some romance. I'm not so sure. Possibly. I also want Jack to find someone because she's awesome. Like, she's so awesome. And then meanwhile, like, but all the spies are super hot, but then they keep, like, being spies. What do you guys hope fans will come to the show and take with them as far as, like, the more emotional stuff, the themes that you address?
This is really important to me. I was keen from the start to make sure that we had an emotional heart to this, and that's really why Brenock and Ronkę have become such an important part of the show. And it's not just a plot adventure. It's not just spycraft and intrigue. If Alex isn't rooted in a real family and a real world, then he's nothing. And because he doesn't have an actual family after Ian's death, it becomes his best friends. And that's the core of it. And also, of course, we've introduced Kyra, and that's a slightly new twist. I was keen that we had as many female characters as we could to balance the sense that perhaps the books are quite a boyish world. Mm. So we've made sure that Vicky has a lot to do as Mrs. Jones. We've made sure that Marli's in there as Kyra, balancing Alex a little and providing just a different take on what it can be to be useful, because she's very much a different skill set to him. And this is how we're trying to make the world more grounded and broader.
What made you decide to go with the second book rather than Stormbreaker?
I think there was a decision from the very beginning that we would move on. Stormbreaker was what it was, and we'd done that story. And really, it was a question of starting again in our own language, in our own visual language, in our own world, with our own cast as well. And there didn't seem to be any real point in remaking that film. Our Point Blank, funnily enough, was the first Alex Rider story I ever came up with. It was going to be the first book. But then I had a change of heart and wrote Stormbreaker and then followed it with Point Blank. So in a way, we have begun at the beginning.
Yeah. Cool. And for the actors, I know Otto has talked about the books. Were you guys aware, fans, readers of the series?
God, yeah. I don't think there was a kid in my school that didn't read Alex Rider at some point in their life. Like it was just one of the things that everyone did. Everyone read it. Everyone knew it.
What about you, Marli?
I remember a lot of boys in my year reading it. I'd seen the film. I don't know if I've read the books, but my little nephew right now, he's like the biggest fan. So that was like the first job I've been able to do that impressed him. So that was fun.
Nice. You got serious cred now. And what about you, Ronkę?
My little brother read all of the books. He could not stop screaming when I told him I got the part. He was just like, this is amazing. And I've got two younger cousins. One of them, she was just like, when's Alex Rider coming out? I need to watch it. So she's watched it now and she just loves it. So it's great.
And now for you, Ronkę, when did you connect with Jack? And also I want to know, what did you do to make her like American? Because, like, Americans are like, we're weird.
Well, you know what's funny is that, so before I kind of segued into like screen, I did a lot of theater and it took me to America. I did like a year almost on and off in America. So, and I fell in love with an American, but that's beside the point. And I kind of based Jack around the time I spent in Chicago and what I know of that city, which is incredible. When did I fall in love with her? From the first time I read the first sides that came through, I was like, oh my gosh, I love who she is. And there was a scene where she was supposed to be in a car and she was kind of freaking out at Alex. And I just loved auditioning with that scene. I was just like, this is amazing. So I had a great time.
And Marli, what did you see in yourself in the character? Because like you said, she's a little not great socially.
Yeah, maybe that. I'm not massively great socially. I think she's a lot like my big sister. My big sister's so smart and like so can see right through people. Like she's just got such a good sense for people. And yeah, so I feel like I kind of every time I read her, I saw a bit of my sister in her and tried to bring that to it.
And Brenock, are you, in your personal life, are you more a Tom or an Alex?
Oh, I'm a Tom. There's no question in that. There was no acting required. I turned up and was me. I just went back to being 16. Just the wrong side of awkward with a little bit too many emotions.
And now, Otto, so you filmed a lot separated from these guys because you were in Point Blank. When you saw the show and you saw what they were doing back home, basically, did you kind of get an appreciation for how much these characters care for Alex?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had so many scenes with all these wonderful people. And developed like great relationships with each of them on screen and off. And so anytime I got to see either them doing their thing or I get to act with them, it was a joy. Yeah, it was really great. It was really cool. But we did shoot Point Blank as one big sort of chunk. So it wasn't like, and it wasn't all in sort of order. So, I mean, I was very rarely not on set. Like, I think I only had about 5-6 days, or maybe a little bit more than that I wasn't shooting. So I always saw them around, and it was great.
And now, when you and Marli were at Point Blank, you guys had like the most comfortable costumes ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How nice is that?
Hey. Yeah. It's like proper Kill Bill, vibe. Really cool. Yeah. I don't know, Marli. What I really enjoyed wearing them. Did you?
I love the costumes. There was one day though we were wearing all that ski gear, but we were filming somewhere else. It was very hot, so we had to pretend we were like freezing in France. We had it was like 30 degrees outside.
It was the hottest day of the year. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And now for the producers, the stuff that goes on inside Point Blank there's some disturbing stuff there. You're dealing with some kind of some stuff that could trigger people, because this is like abuse towards teens and young people. Was there any concern about presenting that?
Well, you should have seen what I wrote to begin with.
No, I mean, I think that both Eve and I, we sort of had on our radar always that this was a sort of 12, if you like, and it needed to be acceptable for, family viewing, if you like. And there was nothing going to be ever totally in your face in terms of the violence. And if it looked like it might be, that we would have alternatives in the edit. So we were able to cover things really well from that perspective. And, if it felt too scary and nasty, we could pull back from that. We had the options to do that. But, equally, we wanted it to be tense and gripping, because that's the nature of the books and the nature of Guy's scripts. And I think it's really important that it has a very grown-up feel to it. But it's never in your face violence.
Except for when Alex gets that slap.
Yes,
that backhand.
That's a real moment, isn't it? I mean, that's not.
That was a gasping moment where I was like, damn! She just clocked him. But it also kind of hits home how bad it is there.
It's this sudden moment where you realize that the rules don't apply here. They're in the middle of nowhere. She can do what she likes.
And you have a very young cast, but then you also have a bunch of grown-ups in dark suits messing around in labs. But what's the set like? What was the atmosphere on set when you're working with so many young people?
It was great. I mean, by the time we shot the inside of Point Blank, we were just halfway through the shoot. And so everybody had really bonded by this time. And obviously we kind of had a slightly new influx of youngsters rattling around in this enormous building that, was cavernous, was slightly falling down in places. The real building that we shot in had whole areas that were closed, no entry due to asbestos, no one must cross this line. And, there we were down in the basement, with foam in rooms and, fire holes through doors. And we shot as much of it as we could in one real space, rather than trying to kind of fill it together hundreds and hundreds of locations to create the feel of that building inside. There was definitely an atmosphere there. So there were things that we were shooting there that, as they say, were on the hottest day of the year, but the temperature almost never changed inside this building. It was spooky.
And I think that the director, Christopher Smith, just to mention him as well, who did direct those later episodes, is just wonderful at creating tension, which is so difficult to do on screen. It cannot be undervalued how hard that is to do. And I think he does get such a menacing atmosphere that travels through those corridors and doors and the world of that school.
For the actors, you've all worked in London, but it's such a gorgeous city. I love it so much. I miss it. Are there any places that you got to shoot where you were just like so excited?
In London or outside? Or
really anywhere, I guess, yeah.
Anywhere. Romania was great. Yeah, in the mountains, that was cool. In London, I mean, Slough was also very nice.
Oh, yeah.
Slough was great in the animal testing centre. That was, I mean, you talk about Point Blank was weird. That place was weird.
Yeah.
That place was weird. No, everywhere we shot was really cool. It's so great in when you're doing things on film, everything's kind of created for you. You really are put into a situation where you're in this amazing hall or you're in the mountains or whatever. So you have to do very little. It's like Eve said, it is spooky or it's exciting, it's epic. So it was great.
I got to wrap you guys, but we want to know kind of for anyone who can come up with just 3 words to describe the first season of Alex Rider.
I hate questions like that. I'm
You're the word guy.
I'm going to say watch this show.
That is good. All right, I'm going to wrap on that one. That was fantastic. You guys, thank you so much for joining us for this special Paleyfest Fall TV Previews conversation with the wonderful cast and creative team of Alex Rider from Amazon's free streaming service, imbd TV. And thanks to the festival's official card City and festival sponsor Verizon. You can learn more about the Paley Center by visiting paleycenter.org. And don't forget Alex Rider on Amazon this November. It is so fun, such a great ride. You guys, congratulations and thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.